More stories for you, and for this next one I want to introduce a very dear friend of mine, a woman named Clementine Ryder. Clementine Ryder was created because I found this jacket in a thrift shop. And I said to my beloved late husband Ron, do you think if I buy this jacket I could come up with a character to wear it? Because I just really wanted to buy the jacket. And Ron said, sure. So I bought the jacket, I put it on, I stepped out on stage and started to talk, and Clementine Ryder was born. I'm going to let her speak for herself because she can, but one thing I will share with you about Clementine, who loves to tell, well, I used to think of them as tall tales until I heard Clementine tell them, because evidently they all actually have happened to her. And so this is one that I thought was a tall tale from Oregon, from the Pacific Northwest, but come to find out from Clementine, the truth. And one thing I know that is true about Clementine Ryder is she loves applause. So ladies and gentlemen, it's my pleasure to introduce to you Clementine Ryder. Ladies and gentlemen, it is indeed a pleasure to be with you here in this hotbed of storytelling in your beautiful state of Tennessee. My name is Clementine Ryder, and I would like to share with you an adventure that happened to me far west in the great state of Oregon. My associate, old One-Eyed Bob, and I were making our way up from San Francisco to Seattle, and we stopped overnight in Oregon's little town of Tillamook, right off the Oregon coast. We were taking some refreshment at a local dairy, supping some cheese curds that are a delicacy of that region, and the dairyman told us this tale. Long ago, the dairyman said, when Portugal still ruled the sea, a Portuguese ship with a chest of treasure was headed homeward when it was blown off course, set upon by pirates, and run aground on the shore of Neahkanie Mountain, just a few miles away from here. Well, while the captain and the crew held off those pirates on the beach, the first mate took 2 stout sailors and dragged that chest of treasure up Neahkanie Mountain till they found a little cleft in the rock, a little cave just big enough that those sailors could crawl in, pull the chest after them, and then the first mate dislodged a boulder to seal them in that cave, safe from the pirate menace till he could come back with other sailors and release them. The first mate picked up a piece of slate and made a crude map so he could find his way back to the location of the sailors and the treasure. But when the first mate regained the beach, he beheld a terrible sight. The sand was red with the blood of the fallen, and the captain and crew of the Portuguese ship were kneeling, bound and gagged in front of that piratical chief. The first mate drew his sword and stepped forward to come to their defense when he was felled by a blow on the back of his head from the dastardly pirate. He fell senseless to the sand of the slate with the map fallen from his nerveless fingers, and when that first mate woke up, he too was bound and gagged far out to sea with those other fellows deep in the bowels of that pirate vessel. So he never did return to Neahkanie Mountain. He never did reclaim that treasure. And so, the dairyman said, topping up our cheese curds, that treasure still lies up there on Neahkanie Mountain for someone brave enough to find it. Well, it just so happened that dairy fellow had a copy of the very map that first mate had used to locate the treasure. And for a nominal sum, I was able to buy it. So the next day, old One-Eyed Bob and I found ourselves going up Neahkanie Mountain in pursuit of that treasure. It was a beautiful day. I was on my Palomino Calliope, and Bob was behind me on his pinto pony Pepita. Our hearts were light with the thrill of adventure, and I could hear Bob whistling the Duke's aria from Rigoletto, a particular favorite of Bob's since he was present at its Venetian premiere. The birds were singing as we passed the first switchback. I looked out, I saw the sea rolling in blue against the sky, and then as we turned and made our way further up the mountain, the air temperature started to drop. A stiff wind blew up. Behind me, old One-Eyed Bob ceased his whistling, and the birds grew strangely silent. We rounded the second switchback. I looked out at the surf. Now the sky was a leaden gray, and I saw a greeny, yellowy, thick scum of fog rolling in on the horizon, and in the middle of that fog, something was glowing in eerie phosphorescent green. It was the shape of a sailing ship from yesteryear, and it was flying the flag of the Skull and Crossbones. "Look at there, Bob," I said. But it was on his blind side, so he couldn't see it. And just then the fog closed in. That fog closed in so thick and fast that we had to peel it off our face like you peel off shreds of wet cotton wool. The wind was blowing so hard that my brave Calliope, she was doing her best, but it was 1 step forward, 2 steps back, 2 steps forward, 1 step back, 3 steps forward, 2 steps back, and then I heard a shriek behind me. I looked around. The wind had blown Bob clear off his seat. He was hanging onto the saddle horn with one hand, and his feet were flapping out behind him like he was a flag on a flagpole. "Hang on, Bob," I said, and I reached for my prize-winning silver-handled lariat. I lashed it back, but he missed, and now he was holding on just with his pinky, and I saw that was starting to tremble. "Hang on, Bob," I said, but before I could lash back again, Pepita nickered, and Calliope reared up, giving me enough purchase that I could lasso Bob's wrist and pull him to safety, saving him from being dashed to pieces on the rocks below. So I reeled him in, and we hunkered behind Calliope and Pepita and used some of that wiry Oregon beach grass to tie rocks to our boots, weighing us down so we could continue our journey. And we walked behind the horses, but it was 1 step forward, 2 steps back, 2 steps forward, 1 step back, 3 steps forward, 2 steps back against that fearsome wind, and just when I thought I could go no further, Calliope stopped, pawed the ground, and whinnied as if to say, "Look, Clementine, X marks the spot." I checked my map. Calliope had it exactly right. We dismounted in front of a huge boulder, and even as we did, 2 streams of whitish mist began to issue from either side, building up into the shape of 2 spectral figures. They were emaciated, bony human figures wearing the tattered remains of sailors' uniforms from long ago. Their eyes gleamed in their skull-like heads, and as we watched, their jaws loosened and opened, and we stared into the black abyss of their mouths as they began to speak. Of course, they spoke Portuguese, so I couldn't understand a thing they said. But Bob, who was fluent in Portuguese, especially the dialect spoken in the coastal towns of the 1500s, translated. And Bob told me what those spectral sailors were saying was, "Go away, leave us in peace, do not disturb us, or the treasure we have guarded with our lives, for lo, these many years, or we will haunt you and your children, and your children's children's children, down unto the 14th generation." "Alrighty then, Bob," I said, "let's you and me skedaddle and leave these fine fellas in peace with the treasure they have guarded for lo these many years." No sooner had I spoke when the sun started to burn through the fog, and a wind began to freshen up and blow those bony sailors away, first their skull-like heads, then their bony arms and their emaciated torsos and their bony legs, until finally all that was left was 2 pair of skeletal feet that were blown away, toe by toe by toe by toe, leaving just a glint of gold where each spectral sailor had stood, which we discovered to be 2 gold coins in mint condition that Bob identified as Spanish reals from the time of King Ferdinand. So we pocketed those coins, untied the rocks from our boots, remounted Calliope and Pepita, and made our way back down the mountain. True, without the chest of treasure we had come for, but with something better, with hearts alive with the thrill of an adventure that had been well and honorably completed. We did stop off at the dairy for another helping of cheese curds and to tell the dairyman our tale, and he listened with a gleam in his eye, and as we finished, he smiled, looked at me and said, "You're lucky, you 2 are. There are many that gone up Neahkanie Mountain, a-searching for that treasure, but not so many who've returned. I'm Clementine Ryder. It's been my pleasure to share this tale with you. Thank you very much.